Kirk Douglas lived through the golden age of Hollywood, witnessed the rise of modern cinema, and built a legendary career that spanned decades, from Spartacus to Paths of Glory. His name became synonymous with greatness, courage, and undeniable talent. But now, at 103, the iconic actor is revealing a side of Hollywood few have dared to discuss: the dark, manipulative, and downright evil behavior of certain actors in the industry. In a rare and startling confession, Douglas names 7 actors he considers the most treacherous and malicious behind the glitz, glamour, and smiling faces on the silver screen. For decades, Hollywood has been shrouded in secrecy, gossip, and whispers of betrayal. While fans only saw charm and charisma on screen, Kirk witnessed a different reality: the petty rivalries, ruthless competition, and shocking betrayals that often went unnoticed by the public. These revelations are not just Hollywood gossip, they are the first-hand account of a man who knew the industry inside and out. Kirk's experience allows him to distinguish between the talented but kind and those whose ambition crossed the line into cruelty. Some names may shock the audience, others may make perfect sense, but all reflect the harsh realities of a world where fame, power, and ego collide. The revelations are equal parts jaw-dropping and cautionary. They expose the hidden dynamics of Hollywood, the envy, manipulation, and power plays that occur behind closed doors. Kirk Douglas, a man who has seen it all, is finally pulling back the curtain, offering a rare glimpse into the dark side of the entertainment industry and the actors whose actions made them infamous in his eyes. Fans, critics, and insiders are already buzzing. Who made the list, and what incidents convinced a Hollywood legend to brand these actors as evil? Kirk's revelations promise to shock, intrigue, and leave the world questioning what really happens behind the red carpets and movie sets of Tinseltown. Kirk Douglas had seen it all. By the time he reached 103, he had lived through nearly a century of Hollywood history, its triumphs, scandals, and secrets. From the roaring days of the studio system to the era of blockbuster films, he had walked the red carpets, shared stages with legends, and witnessed firsthand the rise and fall of countless careers. And through it all, he had observed something most fans never suspected: a dark undercurrent of envy, manipulation, and cruelty that sometimes overshadowed the glitz and glamour of Tinseltown. In revealing the 7 actors he considered the most evil in Hollywood, Kirk was not being dramatic or petty. He was speaking from decades of experience, of seeing behavior patterns that revealed a darker side of human nature. These were individuals who let ambition override decency, who betrayed colleagues for personal gain, and who thrived on gossip, intimidation, or public humiliation. To Kirk, it wasn't enough to be talented or famous. Morality mattered, and those who lacked it left a lasting mark. Some of the stories that shaped his opinions were shocking in their simplicity. There were actors who undermined co-stars during filming, spreading false rumors to advance themselves. Others manipulated producers and directors, ensuring that opportunities went only to those who would feed their egos. In more extreme cases, Kirk witnessed behavior that endangered careers, relationships, and reputations, acts of cruelty that, at the time, the public would never hear about. One incident, in particular, stayed with Kirk for decades. On a film set in the 1960s, a young actress confided in him about being sabotaged by a fellow cast member. Scripts mysteriously went missing, cues were deliberately missed and subtle. Lies were spread among the crew, all designed to make her appear incompetent. Kirk stepped in to protect her, but he never forgot the ruthlessness of the actor behind it. That experience, he says, opened his eyes to just how insidious Hollywood's darker side could be. Another memory involved a famous star known for charm and charisma. Off camera, however, this individual thrived on humiliation, taking pleasure in embarrassing assistants, colleagues, and even directors. You could see the smile, Kirk once said, but it didn't reach the eyes. That's when you knew you're dealing with someone dangerous, someone who enjoyed the suffering of others. Over the years, Kirk noticed patterns. Talent alone could never shield someone from the cruelty that sometimes accompanied fame. The 7 actors he eventually named were individuals who consistently displayed manipulative, vindictive, and morally questionable behavior, even when no cameras were rolling. Their actions left lasting scars, not only on those they targeted, but also on the industry itself, setting precedents for how power and influence could be misused. Despite these revelations, Kirk was clear. His intent was not to sensationalize or destroy reputations. He wanted to offer insight, to share lessons learned from a long life in the spotlight. Hollywood's history is filled with bright lights and dark corners, and understanding both, he believed, was essential for anyone aspiring to survive and thrive in the industry. By speaking out, Kirk Douglas challenged the myth of Hollywood as an endlessly glamorous world. Beneath the awards, the premieres, and the fame, he revealed a place where ego could corrupt, ambition could blind, and even the most talented could become dangerous. And for those willing to listen, his stories offered wisdom. Recognize the signs, protect your integrity, and never underestimate the darkness that can lurk behind a smile. In the chapters that follow, Kirk would name each of the 7 actors, sharing vivid anecdotes, first-hand encounters, and the moments that convinced him of their true natures. These were not just tales of scandal, they were lessons from a man who had navigated Hollywood at its most ruthless, offering a perspective only a legend like Kirk Douglas could provide. Kirk Douglas had promised the world a rare glimpse into the darker side of Hollywood, and now, at 103, he was ready to name names. The first 2 actors on his list were not chosen lightly. They were individuals whose actions had left a lasting mark on colleagues, productions, and the reputation of the industry itself. To understand why Kirk labeled them as evil, one needed to hear the stories behind the headlines, the moments when charm masked cruelty, and fame concealed manipulation. The first actor, Kirk recalls, was a rising star during the 1960s, celebrated for talent and charisma, but infamous for an unrelenting drive to dominate every set. Kirk describes a particularly chilling incident during a high-stakes film shoot. The actor had orchestrated subtle sabotage against co-stars and crew. Crucial props were lost, lines were miscommunicated, and rumors were deliberately spread to create chaos. It wasn't about competition, Kirk explained. It was about control, humiliation, and making others feel small so they'd depend on him or fear him. That's evil. Kirk remembered the tension that hung over the set like a cloud. Crew members whispered in hallways, co-stars exchanged wary glances, and even seasoned directors seemed cautious in their interactions. Yet the public saw only the confident, charming performer on camera, applauding his charisma and talent. Kirk had worked with many actors in his career, but few left such a profound, toxic impression. That experience became a lens through which he viewed Hollywood's hidden dangers. The smiling faces often hid the sharpest knives. The second actor on the list was more subtle, but equally destructive. Known for decades as a screen legend, this individual wielded influence quietly, like a spider weaving a web. Kirk recounted how the actor would cultivate loyalty from assistants and colleagues, only to betray them at critical moments for personal gain. Contracts were manipulated, opportunities were stolen, and reputations were ruined, all with calculated precision. It was never accidental, Kirk said. Every move was strategic. Every smile had a hidden edge. That's the definition of evil to me. Kirk's insight was shaped not only by observation, but by direct encounters. He witnessed firsthand how this actor could charm producers while undermining fellow performers. Behind closed doors, meetings that seemed collaborative were often traps designed to expose weaknesses or create divisions. I've never seen someone so brilliant at manipulating both people and situations. Without ever breaking a sweat, Kirk noted, talent and evil don't cancel each other out, they can amplify the damage. Despite their notoriety, Kirk approached the revelation with a sense of responsibility. He was not interested in gossip or sensationalism. He aimed to educate, warn, and illuminate. Hollywood, he explained, could be a beautiful stage, but it also harbored darkness. Understanding the nature of those who thrived on manipulation could protect younger actors and remind veterans that fame and power always carried responsibility. He also emphasized the subtle distinction between ambition and malice. Many actors were competitive, driven, or temperamental qualities that could create friction on set. But the 2 actors he named had gone beyond ambition. Their actions were deliberate, repetitive, and intentionally harmful. It's one thing to fight for your career, Kirk said. It's another to thrive on others' suffering while hiding behind charm and applause. That's evil. These first two names set the tone for the remainder of the list. They demonstrated the complexity of Hollywood relationships, the mix of admiration, envy, talent, and treachery. For Kirk, sharing these stories was not merely an expose, it was a moral lesson, a warning to those navigating the industry. The line between brilliance and malevolence could be thin, and recognizing it required experience, intuition, and feared to acknowledge. Kirk Douglas had been through nearly every corner of Hollywood, from glittering premieres to cramped studio backlots. By the time he reached 103, he had accumulated not only decades of experience, but also an unfiltered perspective on the personalities that shaped the industry, both good and bad. After naming the first two actors whose cruelty left a mark, he now turned to three more whose actions shocked even him. Proving that fame and talent could coexist with manipulation and malice. The third actor, Kirk recounted, was notorious for turning professional disagreements into personal vendettas. On one particular film, Kirk witnessed how this actor sabotaged another performer's reputation through whispers and carefully placed rumors. Scenes were deliberately disrupted, co-stars were publicly humiliated, and yet the actor maintained an aura of charm for the press. It was theater, Kirk said, but the performance wasn't on screen, it was behind the scenes. And it was wicked. The damage wasn't just psychological. Production schedules were disrupted, tension grew among crew members, and morale plummeted. Kirk's role as a mediator became essential. He stepped in multiple times to shield colleagues from the actor's subtle cruelty. Despite the chaos, studios often rewarded the actor, blinded by talent and box office appeal. For Kirk, this exemplified a troubling truth about Hollywood. Charisma could mask cold-blooded behavior, and talent alone could protect even the most unethical individuals from consequence. The fourth actor, in contrast, wielded influence with terrifying precision. This individual was a master manipulator, known for crafting situations that forced colleagues into impossible positions. Contracts, roles, and even reputations were used as tools of coercion. Kirk remembered observing meetings where producers, assistants, and co-stars all deferred to this actor's whims, fearing the backlash of dissent. It wasn't intimidation in the open, Kirk explained. It was the quiet, insidious kind that left everyone questioning themselves, wondering if they'd done something wrong, even when they hadn't. That's a kind of evil that festers. Then there was the fifth actor, whose cruelty was intertwined with vanity. Kirk described instances where this actor would publicly humiliate co-stars during award ceremonies, press junkets, or live interviews, all for personal amusement. While the media portrayed a sophisticated and elegant persona, behind closed doors the actor delighted in watching peers falter, subtly undermining their confidence. You'd never guess it from the outside, Kirk said, but those who worked closely knew. They saw the smiles that didn't reach the eyes. That's how you spot it. Kirk stressed that these stories were not isolated incidents. Repeated patterns of behavior were what distinguished mere competitiveness from true malice. He observed that these three actors consistently placed self-interest above integrity, and their actions left long-lasting scars, professional, emotional, and reputational, on anyone who crossed their path. To him, it wasn't enough to simply excel in one's craft. Morality and respect for others were equally critical. Despite the severity of these behaviors, Kirk approached the subject with measured reflection. He recognized that Hollywood is an intense environment where egos collide, and ambition often blurs ethical boundaries. Yet, even within this chaotic world, he noted, certain individuals consistently cross the line, moving from assertiveness into cruelty. It's one thing to fight for your career, he reflected. It's another to make suffering an art form. By the end of this chapter, readers began to see a pattern emerge, a cautionary tale about power, talent, and a cost of ego unchecked. These three actors, like the first two, were not only capable performers, but also men whose darker instincts impacted everyone around them. Kirk Douglas, with the clarity of age and decades of experience, provided both first-hand testimony and a moral framework, showing how fame can amplify not just brilliance, but cruelty as well. As Kirk Douglas approached the final names on his list, The tension in the room was palpable. By now, anyone listening or reading understood the stakes. These were not simple rumors or exaggerated tales. These were actors whose behavior, in Kirk's eyes, transcended ambition, crossing into manipulation, cruelty, and moral corruption. The last two actors on his list were perhaps the most shocking, not just because of their fame, but because of the sheer audacity of their actions. The sixth actor, Kirk recalled, was a master of deception, publicly charming, effortlessly likable, and adored by fans. This actor had built a reputation that seemed impeccable. Behind the cameras, however, the story was starkly different. Kirk witnessed this individual deliberately pit colleagues against each other, creating conflicts that benefited only themselves. Production schedules were disrupted not by accidents or oversights, but by calculated interference. In one memorable instance, an assistant's career was jeopardized when the actor manipulated contract clauses, ensuring that opportunities went elsewhere. It's one thing to be ambitious, Kirk noted, but it's another to thrive on making others falter. That's malicious intent. What struck Kirk most was the cold efficiency of this actor's tactics. Nothing was left to chance. Every move was strategic, designed to undermine others while maintaining an untouchable public persona. Kirk reflected that, for many in Hollywood, it was easy to be dazzled by charm, beauty, or talent, but experience taught him that true character reveals itself in moments others might not see. You can't fake the small cruelties, he said. They show who a person really is. Finally came the seventh and most shocking name on the list. This actor, Kirk explained, was known for extreme emotional manipulation. They would publicly charm, privately intimidate, and consistently maintain an aura of control that left colleagues questioning themselves. Kirk had seen this individual undermine careers subtly, ensuring that rivals faltered while admirers remained loyal, never realizing the danger. It's the kind of evil that hides behind elegance and reputation, Kirk said. The sort of thing that doesn't make headlines because it's almost invisible, but it's devastating if you're in the room with it. Kirk emphasized that naming these 7 actors was not a move born from vengeance or gossip. It was a responsibility. He wanted younger generations of actors, fans, and industry professionals to understand that Hollywood, while glamorous, can also harbor darkness. Talent alone does not equate to morality. Fame and charm can mask cruelty. Experience, intuition, and awareness are essential to navigating a world where egos clash, ambitions collide, and power can be weaponized. Throughout his decades-long career, Kirk had learned valuable lessons. Choose collaborators carefully, trust actions over words, and never confuse charm with integrity. While Hollywood could elevate individuals to legendary status, it could also enable and shield the unscrupulous. By sharing these 7 names, Kirk hoped to leave a lasting warning. Recognize the signs of manipulative behavior. Protect yourself and others. And remember that legacy is defined not only by success, but by decency. In reflecting on the full list, Kirk acknowledged that even in the face of darkness, the industry also produced extraordinary talent, kindness, and innovation. His own journey had been shaped not only by encounters with cruelty, but also by collaborations with artists who inspired him, taught him, and left an indelible mark on his life. These stories of evil, he concluded, were part of a broader truth. The brilliance of Hollywood is inseparable from its shadows. Understanding both, he argued, was the key to surviving and thriving in the world he knew so intimately. Kirk Douglas, at 103, offered more than a list. He offered insight, wisdom, and a candid reflection on the realities behind the cameras. For anyone willing to listen, his revelations were both shocking and enlightening, reminding the world that fame and talent, untempered by integrity, can sometimes reveal the darkest side of human nature.